Let's get started. 1. Over-apologizing. We all know someone who apologizes for everything. Spill a drink? Sorry. Bump into a chair? Sorry. But what if I told you that compulsive apologizing might actually be a red flag, and not just quirky politeness? Psychologists say excessive apologizing can be a subtle cry for help. It's often tied to deep-seated anxiety disorders, low self-worth, and even past trauma. These individuals are not just being nice. They may be wired to feel responsible for things that aren't even their fault. Here's what's spooky. It's not always obvious. On the outside, they seem sweet and considerate, but under the surface, their minds are looping through worst-case scenarios. They believe, irrationally, that they're constantly upsetting people or breaking some invisible rule. It's a defense mechanism, one that protects them from perceived rejection or confrontation. The brain becomes wired to overcompensate. The worst part, most of these people don't even realize they're doing it. They've normalized the behavior so much they don't notice the damage it causes. Relationships become one-sided, stress builds, and that relentless internal guilt, it never shuts off. So next time someone says sorry for the 10th time in a row, it might be more than just manners. 2. Excessive daydreaming. We've all zoned out during a boring meeting or imagined winning an argument in the shower. But what if daydreaming isn't just harmless escapism? What if it's actually a symptom of something deeper, like maladaptive daydreaming, a condition where fantasy becomes more real than life itself? People with this condition can spend hours inside their heads, scripting elaborate storylines, vivid characters, even full conversations. And here's the kicker, it often feels more fulfilling than reality. Over time, this coping mechanism can blur the line between what's real and what's imagined. Relationships suffer, productivity nosedives, and the person may become emotionally detached from the world around them. But to outsiders, they just look spaced out. This isn't the lazy kid staring out the window in class. It's someone with a secret world so addictive, they'd rather be there than here. The condition isn't even officially recognized in many medical textbooks, yet thousands of people experience it. Some even feel withdrawal when they try to stop. Chronic procrastination. We love to mock procrastinators. Memes, jokes, self-deprecating laughs. But what if chronic procrastination isn't about laziness at all, and instead, it's a silent symptom of depression, anxiety, or even ADHD? Behind the endless YouTube rabbit holes and last-minute panic sessions is often a brain stuck in survival mode. Tasks feel overwhelming, not because they're hard, but because the brain has convinced itself that failure is inevitable. That fear of failure, it paralyzes action. So instead of facing that anxiety head-on, the mind escapes. Social media, video games, snacks, anything but the task. And here's the terrifying twist. Procrastination actually rewards the brain in the short term. Avoiding a task brings relief, like pulling your hand away from a hot stove. But that brief dopamine hit reinforces the cycle. The guilt creeps in later, alongside shame, exhaustion, and low self-worth. It becomes a loop. Avoid, crash, repeat. This is why calling procrastinators lazy misses the point entirely. They often care too much, not too little. Their brain just doesn't know how to act under pressure, because deep down, it's screaming in fear of messing up. 4. Oversharing. We've all been cornered by someone who spills their entire life story within minutes. Childhood trauma, failed relationships, embarrassing medical details. Nothing's off limits. At first glance, it seems like they just don't have a filter. But what if oversharing isn't just awkward, but actually a sign of emotional dysregulation? Psychologists link compulsive oversharing to disorders like borderline personality disorder (BPD), trauma-based conditions, and chronic loneliness. These individuals often lack a stable sense of self, so they desperately seek validation and connection, fast. The result, instant emotional intimacy, even with strangers. But it's not sustainable. Ironically, oversharing can push people away, the exact opposite of what the oversharer wants. It's not just about lacking boundaries, it's about craving connection so badly that the emotional floodgates break open. Many don't even realize they're doing it. To them, being open is a strength, but underneath, there's often a fear of abandonment or a history of being silenced. And here's the kicker, society encourages authenticity, but never tells us where the line is. 5. Constant humor. We all love the funny friend, the one who lightens the mood, cracks a joke at the perfect time, and keeps the room laughing. But sometimes, relentless humor isn't just wit, it's a mask, a shield, a desperate attempt to keep people from seeing what's really going on inside. Psychologists call this humor as a defense mechanism. And it's more common than you'd think. People who joke constantly, especially at their own expense, may be using comedy to deflect attention from their pain. Think about it. If you're always the one making others laugh, no one thinks to ask how you're doing. This behavior is often linked to depression, unresolved trauma, and anxiety. It's a way to control the narrative. If you're the one telling the jokes, you can keep people from looking too closely. It's also a survival strategy. Humor diffuses tension, creates likability, and keeps vulnerability at arm's length. But behind the punchlines, there's often a storm. Many people who use humor this way report feeling deeply alone, misunderstood, and emotionally exhausted. 6. Perfectionism. We tend to admire perfectionists. They're hardworking, detail-oriented, and always striving to improve. But what if that obsession with getting everything just right is actually a mental health warning sign? Because sometimes perfectionism isn't ambition, it's anxiety wearing a suit. Clinical perfectionism is more than wanting things neat and tidy. It's a rigid mindset that equates self-worth with performance. If things aren't flawless, the perfectionist feels like a failure. A small mistake, catastrophic. A minor delay, intolerable. And beneath that surface-level productivity, an exhausted mind locked in a cycle of stress and self-criticism. This type of thinking is often rooted in anxiety disorders, obsessive-compulsive tendencies, or trauma. It can even lead to depression and burnout. What's worse, most perfectionists don't see it as a problem. They wear it like a badge of honor, not realizing it's draining their joy, wrecking their sleep, and feeding into a toxic loop of unrealistic expectations. Even when they succeed, it's never enough. There's no finish line, no rest, just the gnawing fear of being not good enough. 7. Isolation by choice. In a world that glorifies independence and introversion, it's easy to shrug off someone's isolation as just their personality. But when solitude turns into chronic disconnection, when someone consistently avoids people, dodges plans, and lives in a self-imposed bubble, it might be more than just preference. It might be a symptom. Voluntary isolation is often linked to depression, social anxiety, PTSD, or avoidant personality disorder. On the outside, these individuals may claim they're fine or just tired of people. But dig a little deeper and you'll find emotional wounds that haven't healed, trust issues, shame, fear of rejection. For many, solitude is safety because human interaction feels like a battlefield. And here's the dangerous part. The longer someone stays isolated, the harder it becomes to break the cycle. The brain adapts, social skills dull, self-worth deteriorates. Eventually, even the thought of reconnecting feels impossible. It's not that they hate people, it's that they've built emotional armor so thick no one can get in. 8. Constantly helping others. We all admire the person who's always there, the one who jumps in to help, listens to everyone's problems, and never asks for anything in return. But sometimes, the constant caretaker isn't driven by kindness alone. It's driven by a deep, invisible need to feel worthy. This is called fawning, a trauma response where someone learns to avoid conflict and rejection by becoming excessively accommodating. People pleasers often come from environments where love had to be earned through obedience, silence, or sacrifice. So as adults, they try to secure their value by being useful. But here's the painful twist. While they're busy fixing everyone else's life, their own needs get buried. They say yes when they want to say no. They bottle up resentment. They become exhausted, emotionally drained, and sometimes even physically ill. Yet they still can't stop helping, because stopping feels selfish, and selfish feels dangerous. These helpers often suffer in silence. They're praised for being reliable, not realizing their behavior is a survival strategy from a past where love was conditional. 9. Talking to yourself. We've all caught ourselves muttering under our breath, rehearsing a conversation, hyping ourselves up, or scolding our past decisions in the shower. It's easy to brush off as quirky or harmless. But what if talking to yourself a lot is doing more than just filling the silence? Self-talk becomes a red flag when it shifts from helpful inner dialogue to compulsive, constant commentary. In some cases, it's a coping mechanism linked to anxiety, obsessive-compulsive tendencies, or trauma. The brain externalizes thoughts to process stress or maintain a sense of control. In extreme forms, it's even been associated with dissociative states or early signs of psychosis, especially when someone responds to inner voices that feel alien or intrusive. But here's the nuance. Not all self-talk is bad. In fact, athletes, performers, and high-functioning professionals often use it for motivation or clarity. The key difference? Control. When self-talk becomes involuntary, emotionally charged, or disruptive to daily life, that's when it crosses into potentially dangerous territory. 10. Always staying busy. In today's hustle culture, being always busy is worn like a badge of honor. Back-to-back meetings, endless side projects, no time to rest. It all looks like ambition. But sometimes, staying constantly busy isn't a sign of drive, it's a sign of avoidance. Mental health experts call it high-functioning anxiety, a condition where someone appears successful on the outside but is silently drowning inside. These individuals don't stop because they can't stop. Rest feels dangerous. Silence invites the very thoughts they've been avoiding, so they keep moving, keep working, keep filling every moment with noise and responsibility. It's a coping mechanism, a distraction from unresolved trauma, depression, or fear of failure. And it's deceptively praised. Colleagues admire their work ethic, friends envy their grind, but no one sees the panic attacks behind closed doors, the insomnia, or the breakdowns that only happen in private. Eventually, the body gives out, burnout sets in, and when the busy schedule finally slows down, the emotional weight hits like a truck,